All right, Leviticus chapter 2. This one's a short one, pretty quick one. This one, we're talking about a couple different types of offerings, okay? So more of offerings with flour. Yesterday, or last time you remember in chapter 1, we talked about dealing with meat, the burnt offerings with meat, and there's the variations. So there's a little bit more that we get to talk about in here. Now, verse 1, it says, when any will offer a meat offering unto the Lord, his offering shall be a fine flour, and he shall pour oil upon it, and put frankincense thereon. So this is what's called a meat offering. Now, it's important to realize that when we think of meat offering, we're thinking of steak. We're thinking of ground beef. So we're thinking more of cattle, sheep, those kinds of things. Back then, though, meat offerings, eating meat, oftentimes was flour. Flour in its original, what we would call today heirloom wheat, which used to just be the normal wheat back then, Eichorn, spelts. There's a few other ones like that are a little bit more of those heirloom old-time wheats. Most of the wheat kernel was a protein. So you actually got full by eating the bread itself. Not, nowadays, white flour bread is like nothing. It's just the thing holding the tasty parts of your sandwich together. It doesn't taste like anything. It's light, fluffy, and doesn't fill you up at all. In fact, it makes you hungrier because it's all starch, basically. So you get hungry with that sugar spike that you just got in your blood sugar. Original flours, original wheats, original grains that they had back then were full of protein. And that a sandwich would actually fill them up. The bread would actually fill you up. It would put protein in your diet and actually help you to be satisfied. So that's just something important to realize. The food we eat today is very different from the foods that were eaten even a couple hundred years ago. So this is talking about a meat offering. So you get this fine flour, you pour oil on it, put some frankincense thereon, basically. Verse 2, he shall bring it to Aaron's sons the priest, and he shall take thereout his handful of the flour thereof, and of the oil thereof, and with all of the frankincense thereof, and the high priest shall burn the memorial of it upon the altar to be an offering made by fire of a sweet savor unto the Lord. And the remnant of the meat offering shall be Aaron's and his sons, and it is a thing most holy of the offerings of the Lord made by fire. So this is a very holy offering that's made. It's a meat offering, not so much a burnt offering. So you would give this flour, you give oil and frankincense to the priests. The priest would take some and burn it on the altar as a sacrifice, and then they actually kept the rest. That was part of, in a way, how they were taken care of. Their needs were met as priests because people would bring these foods in, and then they would get a piece of some of these foods. And this thing is most holy of the offerings of the Lord made by fire. So even a burnt offering, this one's just as much, if not more effective as far as getting God's attention and how he sees this. It's a very important one. Verse 4, if thou bring an oblation of a meat offering bacon into the oven, it shall be unleavened cakes of fine flour mingled with oil, or unleavened wafers anointed with oil. So you didn't necessarily have to bring just the flour, but you could bake it, but it had to be unleavened. Now, unleavened means no yeast. Okay, bread with no yeast is flat. It doesn't rise. Yeast basically is what causes that bread to rise. So you take the yeast out, it's flat. So flat bread, like a pita bread, flour, tortillas, things like that, is like an unleavened type idea of bread. Verse 5, if thy oblation be a meat offering bacon in a pan, it shall be fine flour unleavened, mingled with oil. Thou shalt part it in pieces and pour oil thereon. It is a meat offering. If thy oblation be a meat offering bacon in the frying pan, so this is different ways you could be cooking this bread. It shall be made of fine flour with oil. Thou shalt bring the meat offering that is made of these things unto the Lord. When it is presented unto the priest, he shall bring it unto the altar. And the priest shall take from the meat offering a memorial thereof, and shall burn it upon the altar. It is an offering made by fire of a sweet savor unto the Lord. That which is left of the meat offering shall be Aaron's and his sons. It is a thing most holy of the offerings of the Lord made by fire. So again, you can bring the flour and the ingredients. You can cook them in 3 different ways. All of that was acceptable as a meat offering to the Lord. They would burn a piece of it, and then the rest went to Aaron to support him and the priests basically in their callings. That's how they got food. That's how they got taken care of, is because they spent their day doing these sacrifices for everybody else. So they weren't out tending the flocks. They weren't out hunting for food. They weren't out cultivating the ground to do things. They were at the temple working in behalf of everybody else. So everybody else supported them in that instance. Let's see, verse 11, again reminding us, no meat offering which ye shall bring unto the Lord shall be made with leaven, for ye shall burn no leaven, nor any honey in any offering of the Lord made by fire. So it's your oils, it's your flour, a little bit of water maybe to mix it together. That's it. Pretty simple. That's all you have. Verse 12, as for the oblation of the first fruits, so this is another oblation or another offering. Ye shall offer them unto the Lord, but they shall not be burnt on the altar for a sweet savor. Every oblation of thy meat offering shalt thou season with salt. So you have to add salt in there. Neither shalt thou suffer the salt of the covenant of thy God to be lacking from thy meat offering. With all thine offerings thou shalt offer salt. So that's the salt kind of represents that covenant, that sweetening of what we're doing. Salt enhances flavors. Salt helps in the cooking process of things, so it's enhancing it. And that's part of that, showing the covenant with God. I'm promising this, God's promising to help me. It is being enhanced, basically. It's kind of a symbolic way of doing that. Verse 14, if thou offer a meat offering of thy first fruits unto the Lord, thou shalt offer for the meat offering of thy first fruits green ears of corn, dried by the fire, even corn beaten out of full ears. So you get your corn, you get the green ears, you pluck them off, you dry them in the fire, so you're cooking it basically, drying it out, and you pluck all the corn off, the kernels off, the stem part, and then you throw the rest of it away, and you've got the corn. Thou shalt put oil upon it, and lay frankincense thereon. It is a meat offering. And the priest shall burn the memorial of it, part of the beaten corn thereof, and part of the oil thereof, with all the frankincense thereof. It is an offering made of by fire unto the Lord. So it could be wheat, it could be corn. Either one, wheat-based or corn-based, was acceptable for a meat offering. So again, we're getting this idea of there's options. It's not so strict that only certain groups can accomplish this. It is adapted so that everyone has equal opportunities to fulfill the sacrifice. That is so cool. God is thinking for all of us and realizing that the idea that we all have to give the exact same type of sacrifice is not the important point. The important point is that we are sacrificing and giving to God. So wonderful that it's more based on our individual ability to sacrifice. And this is what a lot of these offerings are. And it's a lot of what we do in the gospel today is we're asked to help in callings. We are asked to give service. We're asked to do things, but we shouldn't give more than we can give. It's not good to take a calling that just beats you into the ground, basically, that wears you out completely. You have to decide, how's that going to work and what can you do? There's blessings of taking callings that will stretch you, but you have to make those decisions. And it's not like people are going to look back on you and go, oh, you're a bad person or whatever because you didn't accept that calling, okay? That's very similar to this law of sacrifice today, similar to what they had back then, but it's adaptable, which is wonderful that God is looking out for us all and concerned about us individually and our ability to come to him. That's the important point. So thanks. We'll see you in the next chapter.